We have a few minutes for questions. If you'd like to raise a question. Yes, sir.
I would like to ask, do you think there is a threat that the Cubans, they learn in this war how to behave in a very modern war, because this Ukrainian war is a new systemic war, you know. At the beginning, the Ukrainians had a big advantage, technological advantage of drones, but they admit that the Russian adapted very fast. And now there are North Korean troops on Russian side, now even Cubanian, and they will get new skills. So is this also a threat you see even on the border to South Korea with the North Koreans? And so what is your estimation on this?
Absolutely. This is not a war in Africa. That's my point. This is the most modern war since Second World War II, or since the Korean War, if you allow me. And these people are going to have the battlefield experience in the leading battlefield nowadays. They're going to go to the middle or the center of America. There is, other than the United States and perhaps Canada, there is no other nation in South America and Central America that may have this number of experienced soldiers with the knowledge of all these new techniques, and that's, I see it as a huge threat for everyone. But unfortunately, perhaps not only for South America and for America, but it might be for Africa, because the Cubans tend to expand everywhere. They are willing to go everywhere where the Cuban regime gets paid. And that's something we have to be aware. So actually yesterday I decided to change my presentation and focus on this. I think it's a huge thing we need to talk, and you need to debate and do something about it. Thank you.
Professor Sanmartin.
Professor Sanmartin, thank you for your explanation. I agree with you. I think that the Intel has been privatized and politicized. And in the end, in this confusion of real values of intelligence, organized crime has won, because the global organized crime are the ones that have got the best intelligence teams and equipment. Everything you said that is not in the States in matters of intelligence, technicians, professionals, budget, technology, it is owned by organized crime. And I think that this also has to do with something that has been sold to people during these last 2 decades, maybe, funded by organized crime to disinform population. And what you were saying about what's politically correct or not, attacking. And attacking has been highly sold to populations. The word attacking, with everything that it entails, it has to do with human rights violation, fundamental rights violations. It's all like blurred, so that stops the capacity of states to attack. So my question here is, how can we level things up? How can we balance, or where can we stop? Because we need to stop somewhere and start new again by informing correctly to people, because we need the people on this side to support this kind of attack you were talking about. Yeah, I fully agree. It's that. We need to change the discourse. We need to explain societies that there's no other choice. The first global world corporations are organized crime organizations. They are ahead of states. They've got means, illimited and infinite means. No intel leader in the world has the resources that mafia has. They govern over states even. And we know that very well. And their infiltration capacity is absolute. It's not that they're infiltrated. They are the structure. There are governments that act taking to wars or following orders of their mafia. And disinformation is just another sprout, another expression of that. We need to keep the rule of law, but we need to go and use international rule of law norms. That's why I'm against war and the invasion of Putin against Ukraine, because that represented not only the breach of the international moral, international right, but it is a turning point. It's a milestone, a negative milestone versus the fight against organized crime. Because if that's allowed, that is open to everything and anything.
react to this comment because as important as it is to reshape and reorganize the system, it is also important for intelligence services, for governments using intelligence services professionally, to professionalize them. What I have seen in my experience, also having led a global organization focused on intelligence, on financial intelligence, is that in many countries there is an abuse of the intelligence apparatus for purposes that are unlawful and not correlated with their legal mandate, with their lawful mandate. Mainly for political abuse, for illegal espionage of political opponents, and purposes that only benefit organized crime, adversaries, and terrorist organizations. So if we really want to get this right, we also have to discipline our leaders in the professional use and investment for, which I think you mentioned, Professor, the investment in the professionalization of the intelligence services.
Thank you, Mariano. We're going to try to do 2 more questions, a minute to ask, and then a minute to respond, and then I'll have you, okay?
30 seconds. My question is to Victor Gonzalez. Who is paying the bill of Cuban presence in the Ukrainian conflict? I mean, is Cuba paying for their soldiers, or is Cuba making money out of Russia by sending their military? Because Cuba is well known for having used their manpower, doctors, for example, in order to make cash for a cash-strapped country, which is the case with the military intervention in Ukraine.
It's Putin paying, it's the Russians, but the question is, we don't know at this point exactly. We know what has been offered is between 2,000 and 2,500 euros per month, and we do suspect, and I'm not certain on that that's going to the Cuban government, and the Cuban government might be building the same scenario doing to the doctors. It's not known. What we do know is that it's not even 40% of those Cubans have gone there volunteer. The rest have gone there misled or with pressures and so on. But we can believe what they're doing is to start doing exactly the same they did with the doctors, and they have done through all South America, being really poorly paid at the end of the day and getting all the money for the regime.
Thank you very much. My question is to Victor Gonzalez. Thank you for the presentation. So I think it's a lot of focus on money, but no focus on weapons. Where does the weapons come from? Who is producing the weapons? Who's buying the weapons? He's not talking about criminal gangs here. We're talking about army, soldiers. So where does the Cuban get their money? No, their weapons.
You're asking me about where the Cubans fighting in Ukraine are getting the weapons?
Where does the weapon?
Oh, yeah.
They're buying the weapons from?
We know
they're coming from the U.S. or where?
No, I mean, if I'm sorry, but the Cubans fighting in Ukraine are getting the guns and the weapons from the Russian, and they're being supplied by North Korea, by the Iranians, and so on. I mean, they have like all the people fighting there, and I think that's quite clear and well known. We know how much weapons have been supplied directly from the North Korean to the Russian regime, and we know all these drones that used to be also supplied now by the Chinese, and especially at the beginning by the Iranians. The point here that was the question that was made before is that they have the state of the art of these new weapons, especially with all the drone technology, and there is no other army at this stage now in Latin America, Central America, that's going to have that experience. That's what's worrying me the most. The Cuban regime is totally, the deficit they have is they don't have money. They don't have even food in the island. They don't have medicines. So I'm not afraid of that. I'm afraid of these people getting back and being financed and getting all this knowledge and all these new weapons into the narco traffic and cartels all around. That's what worries me, and we should all be worried about.
Thank you. 10 seconds.
My name is Golakopoulos, member of the Greek Parliament, former Deputy Minister of Citizen Protection in Greece. The discussion of this topic is conducted on the basis of transnational threats, but also of the insecurity that now prevails at national borders. A dangerous situation directly linked to major contemporary challenges, but also resulting from the migration and refugee crisis as a result of war situation and not only. In recent years, unfortunately, we have witnessed the instrumentalization of the migration issue worldwide, while countries in the European South, such as Greece, Spain, Italy, Portugal, have repeatedly found themselves in the middle of this problem. Dangers associated with other transnational crimes such as human trafficking and terrorism. So my question is, and I would like to ask, what is your position on this appropriate burden that the countries of the European South have borne over the years, sometimes protecting their borders alone from threats, and whether you agree that it is necessary to strengthen the relationship between NATO and the European Union by taking additional common measures and implementing new modern common defence tools for more effective border guarding, possibly through the creation of the European Central Mechanism or even an international corps to prevent such phenomena, especially when the parties involved are NATO allies. Thank you.
I'll just react briefly to that from the perspective of the Americas. I'll leave it for our European colleagues to talk about Europe. But the weaponization of migration is a concept that now, is widely accepted as a reality in the United States and most of the Western Hemisphere. But just a couple of years ago only, we were considered quite strange by even raising the idea. I remember our friend Joseph Humeyer came to this forum to present on this challenge several times, and it was like seen as a radical view. Now, the evidence is overwhelming of how, for example, the Venezuelan regime instrumentalized migration to place into the United States the Cartel de Aragua, for example, and other criminal organizations to cause damage to Americans. And this is a reality that is being dealt with right now by the current administration. I think Europe should follow this line of thought and these examples as well to treat with its own problems with similar strategies.
Thank you, panel.